This is a 30-minute presentation that I recently gave to a college strength and conditioning department via Zoom. It wasn't designed to be a sales presentation. They actually already had the straps, but their staff director of continuing education wanted to connect and record something for other coaches to use as a reference. So what this turned out to be was an efficient overview of programming exercises using the strap, something I don't really go into in the manual video. To be honest, I'm speaking in this video more to professionals, so trainers and therapists. But if you're just a fitness enthusiast or an athlete who purchased the strap, the language will certainly not be too dense, and I hope you get a lot out of it as well. Just a quick outline of what's ahead. I'm going to start by briefly introducing myself and talking about my professional biases that definitely contribute to the context of my ideas. Next, I'm going to try to define the strap as objectively as possible, which should help categorize it for you and place it inside or outside of your figurative toolbox. Then I'm going to talk about the two overarching goals of implementing the strap, or really any new device, into your program. Following goals, and hopefully for the majority of this presentation, I will cover the foundational exercises using the strap, and then I will finish with some traditional programming examples. Okay, so along with being the operator of What's That Strap, I'm also a personal trainer within a physical therapy company and an adjunct instructor in the exercise science department at Lehman College in New York. In terms of training, I've been working directly with physical therapists for 12 years, and for the last 6 years, all of my clients have come directly through the physical therapy portal. In terms of teaching, one of my supervisors, I guess you could call him, is Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, who also works at Lehman. And if you're familiar with Dr. Schoenfeld, he is a visible leader in the evidence-based fitness community. So my professional experience outside of What's That Strap is definitely going to shape the information and the content that I include in these types of educational presentations. The exercises that I promote are exercises that I use with my clients, who mostly are adults, post-physical therapy, general fitness clients, looking to get back to being more active and staying healthy. They are probably more so a starting point for the younger athletic population. So the exercises that you'll see me perform in this presentation are going to be considerably different than a lot of the exercises that I share on the social media, on Instagram, from other coaches who get to be more creative with their population. Second, in terms of the claims I make about the transferability of using the strap to things like sport performance, I'm going to be careful from making any inflammatory or hyperbolic type claims. The transferability of any one device is very, very limited to something like a sport performance. So you're rarely, and you shouldn't ever hear me say that this exercise is going to transfer to, for instance, a better golf swing. There's an exercise that you can use to improve trunk awareness, pelvic control against different directions of force and load, and that is part of the training process that hopefully can be installed in a more efficient and tolerable golf swing. But that's word salad. That's not great marketing. So it is a challenge for any equipment manufacturer and marketer to be professionally responsible as well as concise enough in their message to not lose the customer. All right. With all that hot air being out there, I hope that establishes a framework and a perspective as to why I'm crafting this content the way I am. I added this slide for anyone who hasn't had their hands on the 3D strap and to help coaches objectively define and more easily categorize where the strap fits in their figurative training toolbox. The 3D strap is a heavyweight webbing-based harness that is effectively a large sewn loop. It is padded, and it comes with a sleeve or cinch that is known as the strap wrap. The strap wrap slides up and down the strap, merging the fabric together, which allows you to place the fabric a little more precisely on the areas of the body that you want the physical feedback. So if you're doing more T-spine focused work, you can merge the fabric and place the strap more so around the rib cage. If you want a pelvis focused exercise, you can merge that fabric, create a longer tail, and place it against the anterior or posterior hip. Most often, we're using the strap to apply what we can call a spiral load to fundamental movement patterns. Patterns in a squat stance, patterns in a lunge stance, patterns on one leg. Spiral is just going to mean a combination of transverse plane and a frontal plane challenge. Transverse means the 3D strap plus an external resistance is trying to spin you off the planet, twist you, and the frontal plane challenge means that the 3D strap plus the external resistance is trying to shift you side to side. Those are the external forces that you're going to have to control against and overcome, more so than during a traditional free weight based exercise. From my perspective, if you're going to install the 3D strap or any new device in your program, it has to do at least one of two things. First, I don't know if I'm dating myself or if you remember BASF in their commercials. BASF is a company, and in the late 90s or the early 2000s, I think, they had commercials on TV that went something like this: we don't make the products you buy, we make the products you buy better. And so with the 3D strap, you're going to see some hinge variations that I think can really quickly clean up a traditional hinge, which can help your clients or athletes be in a better position when they try more traditionally loaded hinges, which is the goal. We want to improve their position for the old school stuff. You'll also see this in T-spine or kind of rib cage positioning drills using the 3D strap, where we can improve that midline stacking, which is going to be useful for almost all traditionally loaded free weight type resistance training exercises. The second thing that we hope a new device does is that it fills gaps, is that it does something better than other methods we've been using, or it's uniquely beneficial for a specific population. For instance, I hate to overlook the obvious in that the 3D strap is a hands-free training tool. So if you're working with large groups of athletes, you're going to have some athletes that have upper body injuries, maybe an elbow or a wrist. All right, this is another tool that allows them to keep a training effect and avoid detraining when they're injured. The remaining 2/3 of this presentation are going to be focused on the good stuff, the exercises and some simple programming examples. I've pruned down the exercise list to include what I consider to be the starting line or foundational movements using the 3D strap. I'm really not in the business of creating new exercises. These patterns are what we already use. The 3D strap plus external resistance is going to challenge the body more rotationally or laterally once again, more so than traditional versions. You simply can't just hold your breath and brace your core to perform these exercises well. You can't be locked up. Starting position will matter, but so will sequence, and for lack of better words to describe it, stiffness on one side and softness on the other. That allows our body to rotate and dissociate things we need for gait, for general population, and for high performance gait, for athletes, for rotational athletes like swinging and throwing sports. First pattern up is the hinge, a foundational movement for building up to traditional loaded versions or within a post-physical therapy low back program. On the left, we have what looks like a symmetrical hinge, but the load is actually concentrated across my right hip. I'm allowing the strap plus the load to pull my hips back, and then on the way up, I'm pushing my hip into the strap, feeling my glutes and hamstrings contract as I do. On the right, we have a pivot hinge or a hinge with a little bit of rotation. This can be used as a warm-up for more hip-powered medicine ball throws. It can be used to assess side-to-side differences in movement, or simply as a supplementary glute exercise that asks a little bit more of the rotational role from the glute max fibers. Here we have one leg hinge or one LDL pattern options. On the left, I'm demonstrating a 1 LDL to an optional cross connect. In the first rep, I demonstrate an unsupported version, which means that the foot that's in the air is never touching the ground. And in the second rep, I actually perform a kickstand version, which means that the foot actually connects with the ground as it reaches back to help with balance. On the right, I have a loaded version of a hip airplane. All right, so the body is folded over that stance leg and is rolling or rotating into and away from that stance leg. Truthfully, I'm probably demonstrating more range of motion than my clients would, but for anybody who's ever filmed videos, you can relate. When you demonstrate something on video that requires just a subtle range of motion, it doesn't always communicate clearly to the viewer as to what to do. So in real life, you don't need as much range of motion as I'm demonstrating to feel this exercise. On this slide, we have two lunge options. On the left, we have a vanilla backwards lunge. And I'm going to call this a first date exercise because I like this along with something like a hinge to introduce clients and athletes to the strap. So for instance, it's like, hey, today for our finisher, we have this new device. We're going to load up hinges. We're going to load up lunges a little bit differently. Let's see if you can control your body. These are patterns that you're familiar with, but it's a new way of challenging them. On the right, we have an exercise that I absolutely love because it feels athletic and it actually feels less complex than it looks, and that's a rotational lunge. Now, this is definitely, first and foremost, it's a progression beyond forward lunges, but I do feel that in this exercise, the task is kind of the teacher. The body kind of figures it out, which I really like. I think that's a sign of a good exercise, especially for athletes. I don't think any athlete has ever asked to make one leg squats harder than they already are, but I promise there's a learning lesson benefit from adding the strap. On the left, I'm performing a one leg squat without any tilting or twisting. It's hard to see, but the cable is actually pulling from a 45-degree angle slightly out in front of me or ahead of me. The cable's not pulling directly from the side. On the right, I'm performing a one leg squat while rotating. Other than being a glute incinerator, rotating on the way down as you flex at the ankle, knee, and hip will directly benefit single leg landings during box hops and hurdle hops during plyometrics. Did I say I wasn't going to talk about transfer? Well, this is to another exercise. You can hack more stable single leg landings by simply rotating your trunk intentionally toward or into the landing leg. You don't have to keep your shoulders square. You don't have to keep your hips square as I was once taught to do with single leg plyometrics. Wind up those diagonal lines and spiral chains eccentrically, and you'll see the benefit in athletic stability. Pivots are probably the one exercise that I need to explain the most carefully. To begin, we are trying to create rotation that appears to occur from the ground up. These movements using the strap should feel leg-driven, core engaged, with the upper body being along for the ride. There appear to be a couple main issues that make these go wrong. And when I say wrong, I mean performed in a way that doesn't reflect that ground-up sequence or in a way that compromises the position of the lower back. The first reason these might go wrong is starting position. You cannot take a stereotypical powerlifting posture to rotational sequence or rotational power exercises. Living chest up, butt out, shoulder blades back and down, big arch will interfere with the rotational sequence. You will see considerably more flexion in batting stances and in golf address positions. By the way, when I say stereotypical, it's because I'm not assuming that this is how all athletes are taught. However, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the extended posture is a natural consequence or adaptation, rather, of a traditional barbell lifting program. The next reason these can go wrong is that maybe you start in a good position, but somewhere in the sequence you lose it. You misinterpret the task because you see the upper body rotating, so you think the upper body is powering the rotation. You don't understand the legs-driven, core-engaged, upper body along for the ride teamwork. Your chest gets out in front, your spine is extended. Your nips are ahead of your hips. So to review, and with a couple of cues to clean this up, we got to get stacked to start, which might feel like we have to flex our spine. We got to sit and spin. We got to push and engage our abs as we push. Upper body's along for the ride. One final cue that helps is to keep the nose quiet side to side. Nose goes up, nose goes down. Let the rotation occur from the neck down. Two final categories of exercises to cover: bottom up and top down dissociation. Simply the ability to move or rotate the lower and upper trunk independently of one another. It's my position that these drills should be performed with light to moderate load and kept to warm up or technical personality. That means there's no rush to add weight or do them to fatigue. If you want to make them more difficult, I would recommend adding pauses. If you have a medicine ball wall, I think it would be purposeful to pair these with medicine ball rotational throws. For the exercises on this slide, all right, there are a few ways you can step into the strap to apply resistance differently to the pelvis. You'll begin by walking out with the strap and placing one leg into the strap, pulling the strap up high around the thigh, and then pulling the strap wrap up to merge that extra fabric and create a tail. You'll then feel the strap plus the resistance, try to rotate your pelvis either away from the cable machine or toward the cable machine. So you can use these differences to the benefits of your athletes. For example, in this video on the right, this formation, this setup is attempting to rotate my pelvis away from the cable machine. Now, for context, I am a lefty golfer. So what I'm feeling is that I have to rotate my pelvis to the right, toward the cable machine. What this feels like and what this resembles to me is the pressure into my right leg, which is my lead leg during my golf swing, and pulling my right butt cheek back and into the strap, which resembles and feels a lot to me like clearing my lead side during the golf swing. So it's an exercise that really makes a connection for me between the weight room and the sport that I'm trying to get better at. For top-down drills, you can set up in split stance, lunge or stride stance, or variations of swing and strike stance, so otherwise known as an athletic stance. On the left, I've placed my right arm into the strap like a backpack. It's across my back. I'm getting feedback into my posterior rib cage in this position, so I have something to push back against to keep my rib cage stacked over my pelvis, and the setup here also provides the resistance for me to rotate and work on separating my shoulders from my hips or from my pelvis per se. In the video on the right, I've placed my arm into the strap. All right, so the strap is around my bicep. I pull the strap wrap up to merge the fabric, and this setup creates a nice, precise load vector to assist the rotation, as opposed to being slightly more diffuse across the trunk in the left-hand demo. Finally, we get to programming. I hope I don't disappoint anyone any further because the ideas are not going to be complicated. My first recommendation is to try every exercise, or try many exercises, to see if you connect with one or two that come most naturally. These will be exercises that you'll be best at demonstrating and likely be most comfortable coaching, and this catalog of favorite exercises can grow over time. Hopefully, the exercise that you like also serve your clients in your program in a unique way. Hopefully, they contribute to making a workout 10% better. I say 10% because if you're going to use 1 to 2 exercises with the strap in a workout, that's probably going to take 5 to 6 minutes total. That's about 10% of an hour. All right, so that's not insignificant. I much prefer that therapists and trainers, find those 1 to 3 staples that they can use and that they truly believe add to the value of their treatment into their training. Next bullet point. The most logical way to introduce the strap is to pick one exercise and install it into a warm-up. Right? Do 2 to 3 sets in succession of the strap and then move on. Once the client is, or the athlete is, familiar with the exercise, then you can pair it in a more of like a circuit fashion. For instance, today we're going to do single leg hip bridges at the plyo box with bench tees at the bench, and then we're going to do the knee on strap, kneeling shoulder rotations, that we did on Monday. Okay, so that's probably literally something I've said to a client. All right. The next way you can introduce the 3D strap, or another option I should say, because you all have professional license to blow up all my recommendations and do what you feel is best for your flow, is to install it at the end of a workout. And this is kind of counterintuitive because it's not generally recommended that you do new stuff at the end of a workout when a client is tired, but it depends on the context, or the type of exercise that you choose. You can add those pelvic or trunk dissociation drills. You can do something slightly more golf specific. I'll put that in quotation marks. You can work on something that challenges a little bit more balance on one leg if you did a lot of things on two legs earlier in that workout. This is like an instructional finisher. You are introducing a new device into your program once your client has gotten what they've paid for, gotten a good workout in. Next bullet point, it's my kind of preference to use strap supersets. This means just performing two exercises in a row that seem to flow nicely into one another. It's, I get triggered by, do I put my right arm in? Is it this way? Do I turn that way? No. Like, it's the other way. You gotta, put it in like a backpack, spin to your left. Like, I want to avoid that. I want good flow. I want to feel like the clients, are comfortable and know what they're doing without me having to fix them all the time due to my poor instruction. So as a defense mechanism, we're just going to stay in the strap, and we're going to do a single leg hinge pattern. And then right after that, we're going to do a lateral bound. And then we're going to do both exercises on the other side. And it avoids we'll call it, procedural hiccups. That might be overthinking it, but I like flow. Next bullet point is, and I mentioned this before, is to pair 3D strap exercises with medicine ball throws. I think a lot of them mix or pair nicely with rotational type medicine ball throws, whether you're working on hip extension, like during a hinge or a strap RDL, and because you want more hip powered medicine ball throws, or if you're working on trunk and pelvic dissociation. Once a client or an athlete is really competent with some of the foundational moves, you can use those exercises as supplemental strength, especially to offset, a program that is becoming increasingly more like heavy and bilateral and strength focused. You can dose in these lighter, more moderately loaded, multi-directional single leg exercises to make sure that they're maintaining those kind of movement capabilities. Last bullet point covers the idea of like a 3D load. And deload weeks or deload days are intentional, rest periods, but they're also really good opportunities to introduce new devices and new methods that you haven't been able to work into the starting lineup because they take time to teach. So a day of rest can be a day to do 3D strap stuff and kettlebell stuff and FRC stuff and stick mobility stuff that you want to take a little bit further and introduce your clients to more exercise options. Okay, 2 final slides for this presentation and 2 attempts to confirm where a 3D strap exercise might appear in a traditional performance training program. Remember that this original presentation was given to a strength and conditioning department, so kind of the construction of each workout is going to reflect something that you more likely to see in a performance training setting than a personal training setting. So with that in mind, I apologize for 2 things. 1, the font is really small, and 2, my Excel template is really rudimentary. I work in a personal training clinic. I'm still using Excel skills that I learned in grad school at Springfield in 2009, and I understand now that Springfield included, college athletes don't even use training sheets anymore because their workouts are on a tablet on their platform, which is just nuts. But enough of that. If you work your eyes down here in the picture, you'll see that 3D strap hip airplane is paired with ab wheel rollout. So we're in the supplementary, we're in the core section, the C1 and the C2 stuff within a workout. Above that, so at the top of the page, we have trap bar deadlift and incline dumbbell bench, which are our primary exercises. Our secondary exercise pair, so our B1 and our B2 might be a barbell reverse lunge or a dumbbell reverse lunge and a half kneeling Kaiser one arm pull down. So we're really checking a lot of boxes in terms of resistance training. Bilateral, more hip dominant, unilateral, more knee dominant with the lunge. We have an upper body push, we have the upper body pull, we have a more transverse plane exercise in the hip airplane, and then we have a motion control focused exercise, that anti-extension exercise as the ab wheel rollout. I totally understand and get that, workouts have evolved, beyond this construction. But I wanted to make the example clear as to, that these types of exercises can fit in a traditionally constructed workout. Final slide here, and another example of where to place 3D strap exercises within a workout. Need you to play along and imagine that this is a different workout. So disregard trap bar deadlift and incline dumbbell bench. I know those exercises are the same. All right, but in this workout, we are not going to be performing the 3D strap hip airplane at the end of the workout. So I've shifted the screenshot up. I want you to focus on the warm-up, where we are going to be installing a superset of strap exercises into workout stations. For this workout, we have 3 workout stations, an upper body, lower body, and a station that gets us up on our feet using the 3D strap. If you can imagine a team or a group going through this, they might have to break up into 3 stations to get their workout done efficiently. So for our upper body warm-up, we have a bench T, which is really prone scapular retraction. We have a backward bear crawl. For our lower body station, we have a cook band kickback, which is a quadruped hip extension, and a wall hip abduction, which is when you lie on your side up against a wall and you lift or slide that straight leg up the wall. For our 3D strap station, we're going to use a superset that I alluded to earlier in the presentation. We're going to perform 1 LDLs and lateral bounds together. So you're going to perform all of your 1 LDLs, and then you're going to perform your lateral bounds, and then you're going to switch sides. I think that makes that a little bit more seamless. Once again, this is just an example. Trainers, therapists, you have professional license to do what fits best for your clients and your patients. You can totally disregard all of the other kind of loading parameters and exercises on this template. It's just an example. That ends really this presentation. I guess we can call it Educator 1. I want to thank you sincerely for sticking with me throughout this entire presentation. I really hope that this confirmed or reinforced more than it disrupted. I hope there were some aha moments and clarified some things that I hadn't in the manual, in the strapped resources. Once again, thank you, and if you have questions, feel free to DM me directly. That's at what's that strap, or email me at what's that strap@gmail.com.